All right, folks. So in this video, we're going to take a look at creating the pictures for our podcast. So what I did was I got into the Soundcast, or I'm sorry, the SoundCloud Pulse app here on my phone, and this is an actual feed of all of our podcasts. So as you can see along the left hand side, you got a bunch of different pictures that sort of represent, I guess, the basic theme of what each of those sermons or those Bible studies were about. So what we're going to try and do is I want to scroll through and figure out, or just to look and see which ones of these don't have any pictures associated with them, and see if we can find a good one here to try and create a picture for, so I can show you how this process works. So I think I'm going to use this one here in the middle. It's called Christians Are Soldiers. Uh, that was if I recall it correctly, that was the podcast that was for Memorial Day earlier this year. So what I want to try to do is create a picture for this one, sort of going around that basic theme. Okay. So let's do this. I'm going to back out here and let's head into typorama or WordSwag. Now, I use typorama majority of the time because I like the extra fonts and styles that they have in there for a lot of the lettering. But WordSwag is pretty good as well. And there's one particular feature in there that I like to use that I think works pretty well too. And I'm gonna try and demonstrate them both to you. So let's take a look at typorama first. And what we're going to try and do here is work based on that theme. Christians are soldiers. So in the search field here, I'm going to look for just a picture of a soldier. Okay, so as we search here, there's a lot of different photos that come up, and you've got quite a few that you can choose from. Usually, what I try to do is pick an image that isn't really busy. Like you see this one here. If I were to pull this up, yeah, it's got some soldiers in it, but there's just a lot of stuff that's going on in this picture. And if we were to try and put words into this picture, then you'd see the words, but at the same time, it's a really busy and distracting picture. So we're going to use something a little bit simpler than that. And let's see. Let's use this one here. All right. So this picture here is a pretty good one because it has the soldier, but at the same time, it's got a lot of unbusy space around it, where you've got this big dust cloud in the background. So it's a lot simpler to put lettering on that sort of background because it will stand out more once we do it. Now I'll show you what that looks like in just a minute. But you've got the option to go ahead and crop the photo. Just looking at the photo as it is right now, it's going to need to be cropped, but I think we're going to do that afterwards, just because the way that it tries to crop in here. I'll show you. If I were to use the one-to-one crop, okay, that would make it a perfect box, which is what we're looking for our meme photos. If I were to do that one to one, you see how it creates these white lines above and beneath the photo. Instead of having to go back and crop all of that later on, I'm just going to stick with the original file here, and then we'll just crop the basic selection so that we don't have anything else to worry about later on. So I'm going to click done, and it's gonna hopefully bring me into that picture. Good. Okay, so it's telling us to double tap to edit the text here in the middle. And usually, what I like to do is just put in some sort of like really uh, catchy wording, so that it goes along with the theme of or the actual the theme of the sermon itself, without having to use the title of the sermon. So like the title was Christians or Soldiers. So for this, we could do something like on the battlefield for Christ. Okay, so let's do that. On the battlefield for Christ. Okay, and then we'll click done here. All right, so we've got our basic text, and if we scroll along the bottom here, you've got a lot of different ways that you can display that text. So inside of each of these text styles, if you were to click the button once, then it'll show you a different representation within that same text style. So I know in here they've got a lot of different types that you can use. Um, I want to put something in here that will go more along the I guess the lines of what we see being depicted in the picture. I mean, this is not like a playful picture. This is something that's more serious. So um, let's see, ribbons and blocks. Not quite. Um, Not sure that I want to use this whole horror story thing either. Um, okay. Yeah, this will work. Okay, so we're gonna try this particular one here because it's got the army lettering to it, which will definitely work with the picture itself. But I want to do something to where that the soldier that's in the middle here, he's not gonna be covered up. So I'm gonna click on I'm gonna click on this and I'm gonna change it. Okay, that's a little bit better. But we have to keep in mind that the lettering that we have to use, we're gonna try and make it a little bit more bold, a little bit bigger, so that you're actually able to read it. And this seems a little bit small, so I'm just gonna click through here a few times and see if I can find some. You know what? This might actually work. So I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna move it. If you just put your finger on it and slide it up, you can move it, recenter it. Um, and I can definitely work with this. Uh, but I'm not sure how much of this picture we're actually going to need to crop in order to make it one to one later on. So I'm going to shrink it. Shrink it, and I'm actually going to turn this here. Do a little something creative here. I'm going to line it up with this little barricade thing and put that over it. So it still fits within those boxed guides there in the middle. Like you see the grid there. Um, I have it in between the grid so that hopefully once we go ahead and crop it later, it's not going to cut off any portions of the text there. All right, so once we have the text on there, there's quite a few different things that we can do with it. Um, and I'm going to look at the text tools. We'll click on that. And then one of the things I like to do with the pictures is to add, or with the text rather, is to add a gradient to it. So by default, what it'll do is it'll try and take some of that color that dominates the picture there, and it'll try and create a gradient that will fade into the lettering. So I'm going to adjust that down just a little bit, and by using the slider for the start and end color. And I'm also going to, let's see here. I'm also going to change the direction here. Okay, by using the direction slider. Says I want to match the color of that gradient to where it's sort of like coming out of that fog or that dust there. And what that does is it actually brings out uh, some of the lettering a little bit more for where it's Christ. Um, Play around with that direction just a little bit more. There we go. So it's almost like it's emerging from that cloud of dust there. All right, let's see here. Now, one of the other things that we can do is take a look at the filters. Now, this picture has some pretty good color quality to it. So I don't know that there's necessarily much that we're going to want to do with it, especially once you start applying these filters. You see how it changes the color some? And I actually like the color that we had for the original. So I'm probably just going to stick with it just because I think it blends a little bit better. All right, so next thing I want to do is take a look at the overlays. Now the overlays are pretty cool. What you can do is you can drop them in and draw down the opacity or the intensity. Okay, so that actually creates sort of this uh, not like a screen effect, but uh, it will it will add a little bit of extra, um, I guess, grit to the picture once we find the right one. So let's see here. I want something that's kind of that's noticeable but not like overbearing. So this is all right. I guess if there were like an explosion or something going on in the background, or maybe even this one here, but that actually looks a little bit out of place. Um, Let me see. You got any more good ones back here? Oh wait, this might actually work. So sparkling dust. Let's bring that back up. No, no, that looks like snow. This might work. But, no, no. All these look like more snow than anything. Oh, wait, what if I draw this down? Okay, that's not bad. All right. So, anyways, I just wanted to show you what that was, what the overlays would actually look like. And last one's adjustments. Usually, if you have a really high quality photo, I don't mess around with this too much. But this would help if there is a picture that you're really not satisfied with how it blends in with maybe some of the text or how it works with some of the overlays. You can definitely play around with certain things in here and just use the slider to make adjustments. But I think this works for what we're going to do. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to expand this just a little bit more. And then we're just going to go ahead and click up top here where it says OK Share. And it gives you the option to share it out on social media. Um, you can share it by text or messenger on Facebook or Instagram or any of these other services. Usually, what I do is just save it directly to my phone because we have to go back and edit it anyway. So we'll just click the button here that says Gallery. All right. Now, gives us a message there that says saved. So we're going to back out here and I'm going to go into WordSwag and uh, we're going to take a look at this process uh, in WordSwag. Okay, so once we're in here, we're going to click on this button down here that says photos, or that looks like two Polaroids. We'll select that. Okay, and we're going to try and do the same thing here. We're going to do the soldier. Now, both WordSwag and um, typorama, they both use the same stock photo site. It's called Pixabay. So we may get some of the same types of images here. And yeah, you can see the one picture that we had chosen before when I talked about it being too busy. That one's in here. So yeah, what we're going to try and do is look for a picture here. I guess if we can't find the same one that we had before, oh, I actually did find the same one. All right, so we're going to use this. Now, what's cool about uh, the word swag is that you can come in here and you can actually do the square crop like we were talking about before. So I'm just going to make sure that this guy is directly here in the center, and then we're going to crop it by hitting the square crop button. Okay, so if I were to go in here and double tap and put in the same text on oops, on yeah, that's not going to work. All right, so on the battlefield for Christ. Let me save that. I'm going to go through and I'm going to look for a similar font style like what we used. And I don't know if they have one that looks sort of like that army military type font or not in here. Yeah, it doesn't look like it, not by what I'm seeing here. So we're going to have to choose another font that sort of gives that same sort of feel to it. Um, no, no, no. Yeah, it's going to be real hard to find one that's a good one to use. Um, so you know what? We're going to run with this for the time being. So with this particular text style, you've got it, the way that it works here is a little bit different. So there's numbers across the bottom of the screen, and if we click on the numbers, it'll give us different configurations um, for the same text, and we can do something sort of artistic and just kind of draw this down. But I think what I'm gonna go with is this one here. And if we don't like the five selections that they have, we can roll the dice here and then click through and see if there's any different ones that it will come up with for us. So we're just going to use this one. Same basic setup. And try and make sure that it sort of lines up with this edge here. Bring it up. Now, what's cool about this, since we already cropped it, we know exactly how big our field of vision is going to be for this. So I can widen this out a lot. Make sure it's pretty much lined up. And then do something like this. Now, once I have that in place, I can play around with the color here, which is sort of cool, and adjust the transparency, um, just to make sure it's not too bright. And I will do that so it bleeds some of that background color in. Now let's take a look at some of the filters here. And we can darken it and bring out the lettering more, or we can add some different types of color contrast to it. But there definitely are not as many options for it as there were in Typorama. But there is one particular feature that I like in here that is that's not available in Typorama. I'm going to show you that now. But what I want to do is I want to change the lettering style first and bring up something just kind of bold here. Here we go. I think this is pretty good. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put something over the image, and then there is an option if you go inside image, or I'm sorry, if you go inside color, where it says to invert, which is kind of neat, because you can take that text and you can make it the focal point, but you can draw the or have the picture displayed behind it, and also change the coloring so that it really stands out more. So you can still see some of the picture outside of the lettering, but the focal point is what's going on behind the letters themselves. So if I wanted to, I can come in and just like change the style on the lettering and sort of get that same effect. It doesn't work as well with a lot of the center formats for the text, but if you use like some of these type uh, badge type letterings, you can get some pretty cool effects. So that's basically both of them. And let me just go ahead and do this. I'm going to go. I'm going to click done here. And by default, within WordSwag, it already uploads this into your photos folder. And okay, so that's basically it. Oh, actually, there's one more thing. So if I click out of that, and then I go into Dropbox. By default, these don't load up to Dropbox, so we would actually have to load them in here. But once they're done, then they can be saved directly to Dropbox, or we can go in on the SoundCloud website and then do the update to the pictures themselves, or yeah, to the images uh, that are associated there. So, like, I could take either one of those photos that we just created and then upload it and make sure it's centered and everything for what we need. So that's the basic process of creating the memes inside of Typorama or inside WordSwag. So if you guys have any questions, please let me know, and we'll see you on the next go round.